Alright, let's see how well this camera setup works. Hopefully the audio is not too crackly. I took the wind muff off. Anyways, hey guys, and welcome back to the channel. I'm going to try to self-film this little update on my big camera, just kind of holding it out at arm's length, so we'll see how it comes out. This year I'm going to be documenting my experience with Cornish Cross broiler chickens. This will be the second year we've done it, and I have some 2-week-old chicks I'm going to show you guys back here in the little chicken coop behind me. And right now it's March 9th, and in the daytime we're hitting 55-60 degrees now, but at nighttime we're getting into the 30s. For the first 2 weeks I kept them in some pretty tight brooders and kept them warm. Today I just moved them into the coop here. I'm going to give you guys a look at that in just a second. Tried to raise 30. We've lost one in the first 2 weeks, but we have 29 back here in the coop, still growing well. Tonight it's going to get down into the 30s, so I've got a couple of lamps in here, and I'm going to show you guys kind of my setup. Here were the brooding pens that I used initially. They're small, just a couple feet long and about a foot and a half wide. These are just Tractor Supply storage totes, and you can see I've got the waterers and the feeders, 2 different styles. And I kept a lamp on each one of these, so I'd hang a lamp off the end, and then at night I would half cover the top with the yellow lid tops. And those yellow lid tops are still being used, but they are now in my coop. Have to excuse the dog in the back. So here is the new coop. It's acting as a brooder right now at the moment. We have all the windows bagged off or blocked off with cardboard, and that just keeps the airflow from circulating through here and causing a draft. Now underneath these lamps, we're going to take a look at the heater in the back. Right now I can't see the temperature from here, but let's get in there and find it. So right there, you can see next to the heat, we're just at over 100 degrees, which is obviously plenty warm for these birds, and that's why none of them are right now right under the lamps. Now tonight, when it drops down into the 30s, these birds are going to crowd up underneath those lamps. Like I said, today is their 14th day. We are just now hitting that 2-week mark. I've graduated them to the large waterer and the large feeder so that I don't have as much maintenance. Now, these birds are going to continue to live in the coop until they're too large for these walls. I'll remove the yellow lids, and until they actually start coming out and ranging in the yard and in our fenced-in area, I'm going to continue to just add chips on top and compact that down. So I'm going to give a week-to-week update so you guys can see the progression of how they're growing. And then at sometime between 8 and 9 weeks old, we're going to film our butcher day as well. Now we're in week 3 of raising these Cornish Cross birds, and I'm going to give you a quick look at them. Not a whole lot has changed. They're feathering out more. They're taking more feed and water every day, so I've upped my water bucket. And that's just so I don't have to check it, but once a day or maybe every 2 days. And the food is staying about the same. But right now they are growing exponentially fast. So I want that food in there all the time to produce a big, fat bird. As you can see behind me, the chicks are outside of the coop for their first full day. This is our 4-week update. We're on week 4 of having the birds, so they're just a couple days older than 4 weeks old. And they're starting to feather out really well, but they still have some fuzz, and their white feathers are not fully fledged out yet. I've moved the water and the food out to encourage them to come outside of the coop. And basically, at this point, the weather is warm enough and the chicks are old enough that they can start roaming and scratching around the pen. on that 24 hours inside the coop, they're just starting to produce way too much poop, so they've got to come out and kind of spread that around. As they get bigger, I'm going to expand the pen. I have the stakes and the fencing. I just need the time now to kind of push it out another few more feet and give them even more room. And by about week 5 or 6, they should be spending most of their time outside of the coop, and we'll just be penning them up at night. All right, we're going to do our 5-week update. So right now we're in the middle of week 5. It was kind of raining this weekend and I didn't really get out here to do a whole lot, but one of our big updates is that we've added some fence to expand their chicken run. We got about 2 times larger than what it was. We don't free range them very much, and we don't use chicken tractors. They stay here in the pen and in that coop, and so giving them a little bit of extra room helps them get a little bit of exercise. I personally think it helps us avoid some of those hip issues these birds are notorious for. Now they're growing really well. Right now we're doing 12 hours on, 12 hours off food and water. That's really so that they're not eating and drinking at night and filling their coop up with poop. So this helps them stay a little more daytime active, feed during the day, and excrete all their waste mostly during daylight hours. I think it helps. But the birds are, like I said, they're growing pretty well right now. I weighed one a couple of days ago at 3 pounds and 10 ounces. So we are rapidly approaching that 4-pound bird mark. And by week 6 or 7, honestly, if you wanted a smaller bird, these would be fine to butcher. But we're going to try to get them, we're going to try to get them all the way to week 9. We're going to keep doing everything the way we're doing it right now. In the morning, I get up, feed their 15-pound bucket feeder, and they're going through about the whole thing in a day now. And then I fill up their 5 gallons of water, and they're getting pretty much through 5 gallons of water a day now as well. Every week I'm coming in and putting more pine chips down on top of the floor of their coop, and that is compressing and insulating all of the manure down, and it's turning itself into a compost, and it's going to work out really well. By the end of this 8-9 week period, I'll have super high quality fertilizer to use either out here in our yard or to start a garden with. The birds are between 6 and 7 weeks old right now, if I'm doing my math correctly. They are birds, and I've got my little buddy back here helping me out. Say hi, Bubba. We've got all the birds out now to walk around, get some exercise, feed on some grass, and we're trying to encourage them out of the fence by putting their food out here as well. They are right now, most of them are over 5 pounds. So we're coming into full-size birds. They could be butchered any day, but I'm really trying to produce a larger chicken. We're still feeding 12 hours on, 12 hours off, but I'm hoping by butcher day we have several between 8 and 10 pounds.
Bite me on the finger.
Well, better keep your fingers out of there then.
That's funny. You have sharp teeth.
All right, guys, this is going to be our final week update on these chickens. So right now we're in our 8th week. We're just coming out of week 7. We're going into week 8. And by the end of this week, if I did my math correctly, most of these birds are going to be on day 1 of their 9th week when we butcher. This weekend, we're going to butcher 29 of these birds. That'll be all of them. And I have some rental equipment coming in. We have the scalder, the feather tumbler, and then I have some of the other equipment we need, like shrink wrap bags and a turkey boiler. So it's going to be all hands on deck on Saturday to process these birds. These birds right now are between 5.5 and 8 pounds live weight, which is going to be great for dressed weight we should probably average around a 5.5 pound bird. So we'll know that for sure after we're done butchering. I'm gonna give you a look at these birds right now. They're fully feathered. They look like chickens. They're only 8 weeks old, and currently we're still feeding on a 12 hours on, 12 hours off schedule, with water only being really 12 hours on, 12 hours off. Basically, I get up at 7 before work, let them out of the coop, feed them, water them, and I pull it around 9 p.m. every day. So they're going through about 2.5 to 3 gallons of feed a day. And at this rate, that's putting them at about a 50-pound bag in about, 5 or so days. So this week we're going to feed them today, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then on Friday we're going to pull the feed, just give them water. That's going to let them clear out their digestive systems, and it's going to make the processing part of this a lot cleaner for us, because there's going to be no kind of bile or digested food in their entrails when we go to eviscerate. I'm going to show you guys that process as well, but let's give you a look here at the birds and how they're doing, and then we'll see you guys on Butcher Day. All right, guys, today is the day. It is April 26th. These birds are just over 8 weeks old. Some of them may even be coming into their first of the 9th week. But today's Butcher Day. So we are gonna take these birds. We actually have 28. I had to call one early this week because it was starting to show a lot of hip problems, which these birds are kind of known for once they start getting to that 7, 8, and 9 week range. But so we called the one, and she was the smallest bird of the group, and dressed and freezer ready weighed 4.1 pounds. So I'll give you a quick look at our operation and one last look at these chickens before they head to the freezer. Now I will start down here at the beginning of the process. Right here we have a killing cone, a bucket to catch everything that drips out as we bleed out the birds. This little frame here has served me well over the last couple of years, but it's kind of coming to the end of its life, and it gets used for all kinds of random things. Down here we have the scalder and the plucker. Both of these things have to be hooked up to electricity, and then the scalder is running off propane. There's like a little furnace underneath that heats the water to about 150 degrees, and I'll have to hook up the hose to this as well to get water in here as it plucks. It'll help shed all of the feathers. Back here we have the turkey cooker, which will be used to help shrink wrap the birds. Here's our butcher table, a couple sharp knives, and then down here we'll start them with a cold water bath. The water's about 55 degrees out of the ground, and then over here we will have ice in a cooler, and I have a second cooler coming as well. So we'll have ice water in the cooler to rest these birds and bring their body temperature down. It's important to bring the body temperature down quickly so that you can kind of slow down the bacteria growing process. Ultimately, when you cook these birds, if you cook them to safe temperatures, the bacteria is gone anyways, but we don't want any meat spoilage. And so for today, they will sit in the ice bath for actually a couple of hours before we get everything ready to shrink wrap them at the end of the day. Let's take one last look at these birds. They all came out really well. I mean, they're full-bodied chickens. Several of them are quite large. They've got great feathers and plumage. Our local non-GMO feed really grows these birds quickly. And they are hungry now. They have not had any food for 24 hours. They've just had water. And we want them to fast before butcher so that there's just less like ruminants and bile and stomach contents in the guts as we're gonna eventually eviscerate these birds. In just a little bit here, we will start and show you the step-by-step process of how the butchering actually works. And viewer discretion is advised kind of from this point on. If you guys want to keep watching and see this process, I'm going to show everything but essentially the unaliving of the chicken. All right, so this is how the process starts right here. We'll catch a chicken, put it in this killing cone head down, and the head will come out down here at the bottom. Basically what you do is you take the head of the chicken and pull it down out of the cone. Get yourself about 2 inches of clearance. Take your knife and come right through the neck. And if you do it in one quick motion, usually you just get through the vertebrae, the neck, and everything. The head will come right off, and we'll put it down there in that bucket and let it bleed out. Then it's important to kind of keep your hand on top of the chicken here to make sure when it starts flapping it doesn't work its way back out of the cone. The cones are really good at containing them, but you don't want them flapping around after you take the head off, because they'll break their wings, and we like to vacuum seal and freeze our birds whole to make a nice kind of table layout. That way the customer can roast them in the oven whole or part them up on their own, but they don't want a bunch of broken bones. So here in just a second we're going to dispatch this chicken and you know, viewer discretion is advised, but we're going to skip the actual unaliving of the chicken in edit, and then I'll show you the rest of the process. So that's all there is to it. Super quick. The head comes off and everything goes down in the bucket. You can see it's kind of thrashing. That's the death throes of a chicken. I'm sure you guys have heard just the old adage that run around like a chicken with your head cut off. Well, they actually do that. They flop and roll and run around as soon as that head comes off. So you have to hold them here, and that just keeps them from damaging the carcass. So it makes a better table visual when it comes time for the customer to actually use their bird. We'll let it bleed out here for just a minute or two, and then we're going to move it over to the scalder and then the plucker. So now we have our chicken carcass here, and it's going to go down into this water. This water is between 140 and 150 degrees, and we're going to give it a bath here for about 30 to 45 seconds. You know that it's done when the feathers start stripping off of it with ease, and a lot of times I'll wait until the actual chicken feet skin starts to peel off when I pull at the toes. So I use these tongs to kind of move it around in the water and make sure the water gets through all the feathers. A lot of our birds feathered out really thick, so I want to make sure that skin is coming in contact with the hot water because it's loosening the feather quills. That's probably going to do it. So then the chicken's going to come right over here into our tumbler. We're going to turn our water on and then flip the tumbler on. This bird needs to be plucked a little bit more. You can see some of the feet skin is still on there. Our scalder there is not quite hot enough yet for the first one, but these are very easy to now pull with your hands. You can just pluck them right off the bird. So we'll clean this bird up a little bit and take it over to the evisceration table. So now that the bird has been scalded and plucked, we have it over here on the table to eviscerate. Basically all we're going to do here is take the crop out of the clavicle area and the esophagus. We're going to flip the bird around, and we're going to come in above the vent, which is the butt of the chicken. And then we're going to open up the body cavity and remove all of the innards. And we'll trim off its tailbone here because there's a gland back there that I don't like to keep on our birds. We'll remove the feet as well, and then it's going to go over here into a water bath where we will eventually transition it to an ice bath, and then they'll sit in there cooling to bring that body temperature down until we're ready to vacuum seal these birds. So my first cut, you can come in and maybe stand sunshine, probably stand here, I guess. So my first cut is going to be up here on the neck. I don't want to cut back here towards the breasts because the skin will stretch and it'll expose the breast meat. So I'm going to come up here on the neck and kind of pull it away a little bit, make just a little cut, and reach in here with my fingers. Now the crop is kind of difficult to find, but it's in here along with the esophagus, and we can just pull all that out. Get your finger up underneath it. There's our esophagus, and the crop is over here, and I'm going to have to separate it a little bit because they're empty, so they're harder to get to when they're empty. Alright, so now that you have the crop, it's empty, it's like a sack or a balloon. reach in here with your finger, try to get in behind it as much as you can, and then if you still need to get a little help with the knife, just pull it out with the knife. So the esophagus and the crop are gone. Now we're going to come in here above the vent. Like I said, it's the butt of the chicken and this breastbone, the keel bone right here. We're going to take our knife and make another little cut just to get into that body cavity. You don't want to puncture the organs. Stretch this out, reach up in here with your hand and begin separating the guts from the body cavity. You're going to pull all the entrails out. Try to get them all out together. Sometimes the heart and the lungs will detach. You got to pull up in there and get your heart out. Now if you want, you can save the chicken livers and hearts depending on what you guys like to cook up at home. We like to fry them. It's pretty popular in our area too. So now I've made it a cut on both sides of the vent leading down to this tailbone. Here's the chicken's kind of bladder and end of the entrails, and I'm going to cut with my knife and remove the entire tailbone with this gland. Now all of our entrails and undesirables are separated from the bird. I'm going to come in here and cut right through the ankle bone on these feet, and if you kind of help it with your hand by peeling it away from the chicken, usually they come off real easy. So then here's our chicken ready to go into the water and ice bath, and then we'll vacuum seal it here at the end of the day. So we're here towards the evening now. We took a break in the middle part of the day, and we are now going to vacuum seal all of our chickens. You can see what I've got here is something that looks like it's ready to go on a table, or at least into the oven. And down in here, if you want to come up here and take a look, we have all of our chickens sitting on top of ice. We had them submerged in the ice at first, but then we turned them all up so that all the fluid drains out the bottom of these birds, and it's going to help us get them relatively dry before we actually bag them. So what I do to bag these birds is take them over here, and if that'll sit right there, that'd be perfect. I'll take them over here, do a final inspection. Right here I've got just a little bit of stuff to take out of there. So we'll do our final inspection here, and then the shrink wrap bags go on top. We like to do them whole. This is just the way that's easiest for us. We like to cook them whole, and if you don't want to cook a whole chicken, you can always break it down later. But to start, we put them whole. So once I get them in the bag, I go head first, and I'll kind of shape the chicken to the shape that I want it to sit in the freezer. Generally that's the hips and thighs pinched in, and the wing tips right here on top of the chicken's knee, and then that's kind of the way it'll sit. Now I'll take my little straw here and put this down in the chicken's cavity, press out some of the air just myself, and give it a twist or two. Okay, then we're going to take our zip tie around where we twisted it, and I'm going to get it snug but not super tight because we're going to cinch it down all the way once it's done. So now that I have all this held together, I need to put on these heat insulated gloves, because if I get my fingers in that hot water, it's just about boiling right now, and it's going to fry me up. So here the water temperature is about 180 degrees. These are only going to dunk in this water for just a couple of seconds. We don't want to start cooking the outside of the chicken, but the heat is going to rapidly shrink this bag. So my straw will be out the top. Everything's ready to go. I just give it a dunk. Just for a couple of seconds, and it shrinks right down onto that chicken. I'm going to take my straw out and get a couple more clicks out of that zip tie, and you have a packaged, shrink wrapped chicken ready to go in the freezer. I'll trim the excess of this off, put my labels on the outside and mark each one of them with the date, and how much they weigh. So this is all you have to do. This is the end of the process for these birds. We've got 28 of these things to get done, so we're going to turn the camera off and finish those and get all these in the freezer. But that right there would make anybody happy at the end of this chicken process. You know, just over 8 weeks ago we were picking these birds up as little chicks, and now we have a whole bunch of these dressing out between 5.5 and 6 pounds. As always, I appreciate your time. Thanks for watching, and God bless.